Hello, everyone. It's so nice to see some of you and hear or see or know that you're all on the line with us together. This Shabbos was supposed to be our Shabbos Vadas in the hotel, and obviously it couldn't happen. And we really wish we could be together and spend time together, Farbrengen together, learn from one another, grow in Hasidus, and just a bunch of ladies together know that when we sit together, there's so much that good that can come out of it. But obviously that Yad Hashem orchestrated it differently. And each of us are sitting in our homes with our own reality, and we're all trying to make the best of it. And we could all benefit and enjoy to hear from our beloved Mashpiyas. So in lieu of our Shabbos, we are so happy to have here with us three of our really beloved Mashpiyas, Mrs. Esther Feldman, Mrs. Mushky Morosow, and Mrs. Baila Piekarski. We're going to start with Mrs. Esther Feldman, who will share with us some Hasidus and thoughts on Sefirah. We can utilize the last 2 weeks of Sefirah, these special days. So, Mrs. Feldman, we're ready.
Hello. So nice to see whoever we see, or at least to know that people are here, even though we don't see them. Thank you, Etya. So we'll talk a few minutes about the Nakud of Sefirah, the counting, and actually how this counting is something that, really accomplishes so much. Seemingly counting, and you're just taking what there is and you're just going through it. It doesn't seem like as much of an accomplishment. There would have been anyway without me counting. So our question really is, or our discussion is going to be, what does this counting actually accomplish? In the Maimarim, the Sefirah is called the Memutza. Memutza meaning the middle path or the middle way between Pesach and Shovuos. So in other words, coming from Pesach, it was a very big, in other words, the whole concept of Pesach was very much what Chassidus calls a Sarusa de La'ela, or a Momaila Lamata experience, where the Eibishter went completely beyond himself and gave us a tremendous gilui that suddenly just came from the Eibishter's avid towards us, and not really reciprocation or a return to anything we did. It does say that b'schus ha'emunah, which means the emunah that we had ignited this, the emunah that we had, gave the Eibishter the hisayirus, so to speak, right, if we can talk like that. But nevertheless, that which the Eibishter did on his part was a gilui that was completely out of proportion, out of normal. That was Pesach. Now we know that that's not the purpose. That's not our avodah in this world, is not to receive and receive and receive, but the purpose really is avodah, to do. And that's the whole thing of Matan Torah, getting the Torah. And once we have the Torah, we know that there's an avodah of Torah and mitzvahs, and practically to, change the world and turn over the world. So the Sefirah days are that, that Hachana for this whole new life, for this whole new world of, Torah and mitzvahs, avodah, doing, accomplishing, or what we call a momata l'mayla part, right? Sarusa de latata, that from down here we're accomplishing and doing. And so the Sefirah days are the memutza, the middle, to bring us there. We have 49 days with the goal, or the avodah, the purpose is that we kind of get a hachana, a preparation for our life, of Matan Torah, and then the life after Matan Torah. It's interesting that in Chassidus there's a lot of discussion if it's Someira, if it's Aseh Tov, if it's both Someira and Aseh Tov, and there's many opinions that are given between what exactly is this counting. In one of the places, the Rebbe writes clearly that it's a combination of both, which means that we're getting rid of the memtaz shari tumma we had in Mitzrayim, which means sumeira. Every day of counting and counting and counting is kind of like a cleansing and a cleansing and a cleansing. And then coming to the Aseh Tov, which is putting on to us the memtaz shari kedusha, the 49 levels of kedusha. So our discussion will be a little bit, how does this happen? How does counting accomplish something like this, that we can change over so much, in 49 days? The first thing, and it's very powerful to see the koyach of the fact that Torah tells us, usfartem lachem, that you should count. just the tzivui, puts Zman in a completely different category. In other words, it takes Zman and makes it such a powerful metzias. In other words, the etzem counting, the etzem idea of me saying 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, makes that Torah is taking Zman, turning it into a mitzvah, which means asasveta metzias. It becomes something very crucial. And we know by Chassidim, there was a lot of different, important messages and hayras about every moment is a whole world. There's a famous thing that a winter nacht and a sommer tag is a ganze Iyar. Like when you have the long summer days and you have the long winter nights, you put them together, that's like a whole year, how much can be accomplished and how much can be done with that. It says that, I'm just quoting from Hayom Yom, the Rebbe Rashab says, Jeder Tag is an inyan in Leben. Every day, every moment is so precious, is so important. And it's interesting when we count, we don't say Hayom Yom Revi. We say Hayom Arba'a Yamim La'ema, which means I have already 4. I counted 4. I turned these 4 into a metzias, into something crucial, into something important. We even have in Halach, it says, Davar shebeminyan ein nisbato, right? Once you count something, so now it's something important. It's something that's there. It's something that takes space. I'm just going to quote another Hayom Yom that talks again about the importance of time. It says that the Rebbe heard, the Alter Rebbe heard that Chassidim pflegen allemol zählen. Der Wort ist dem Taten sehr gefallen geworden. When he heard that Chassidim would always count, he was very happy with that word. And he said, Azoi ist der Inyan ha'avodah. Die Sha'as darfen sein gezählte, dann seien die Tag gezählte. Als es geht weg a Tag, darf man wissen, was man hat aufgetan und was man da weitertan. A day passes, we have to know what did we accomplish and what do we have to further accomplish. Bechlal darf man sehen, als der Morgen soll sein, als sach schöner wie der Heint. In general, we have to see that tomorrow is always nicer than the day, which means that counting days, there's an English saying, counting days makes days count, right? Just the counting, knowing the importance and the crucialty of this, that makes the day be a different day. I value time. I see the preciousness of the time. And therefore, when the clock is moving, I feel something important happening. And so I try to use every moment for the Eibishter. So our first thing we're saying is about the etzem counting. Svartim lachem, the etzem counting gives a mila in time, a preciousness in time. As we know, just the simple pshat, Yidden were counting because they were excited. They came out of Mitzrayim. When something is exciting to you, something is special to you, they were looking forward. And so every day they counted and counted and counted to finally get to whatever they're looking forward to. So that excitement made the counting. Another explanation for usfartim lachem, for the counting, is from the Lashon Sipor, l'saper, and that's very connected to the first, that when we count, then every day really has something to tell. We have a story for every day. If I wake up in the morning and say, today is going to count, then when I go to sleep at night, I have what to tell about this day. Like I spent my day thinking, right? I spent my day making sure it's a special day. So therefore, l'saper, there is what to say. In other words, the day becomes a day that I can write a book about, I can tell a story about, it becomes something important. And finally, we can go to the real deepest explanation of Svartim Lachem, coming from the Lashon of Safir. Here is a place where we see that the Hebrew language is similar to the English language, like a sapphire, which means Svartim Lachem means that we should illuminate, we should shine, we should make every day become something that's shining, something that's illuminated. Sometimes we have diamonds and we have stones and they're just dull. They're not shining, they're covered in dust, or they're dirty, or they don't have that sparkle, right? When I take it and I work on it, put in some Avodah, then I change it and I make it shine. So we know that every year there's an Eretz Chafetz, right? That there's a lot going on there, a lot of beautiful things, and sometimes you just have to dust it off a little bit, right? Take it and make it shine. So the Lashon is, men darf machen lichtig dem lachem, v'sipartem lachem, men darf machen lichtig dem lachem. The lachem is a beautiful thing, but sometimes we have to make it lichtig, which means mevar sein die midas, or mahapach sein l'tova. I'm going to read another Hayom Yom, where the Rebbe talks about that concept of Visfartim Lachem. So it says, "Usfartim lachem usfartim hu melashon sapiros ubehiros." The word "sfartim" is from the lashon of a sapphire and from illuminating. Say shiyah halachem bahir. We have to make that the lachem should be illuminated. And when the Alter Rebbe says this, he started singing the niggin of the Daled Bavos, and he asked him a question, and how do we do that? How can I make that the lachem should be illuminated? And in the same words, in the same niggin, he continued by saying, "B'shava shabases tmimis," with these 7 full weeks, b'beir sheva hamidais, by going through our 7 midais. Shakol mido mida tiakula misheva, v'sheva hamidas asam yesheva shabases, the Shabbos ain't a tzarech birur. To go through each one of these sheva midais and see how beautiful and illuminated these sheva midais are. So in a minute, I'm going to go a little bit into at least the beginning, the chesed, and see how we're going to take it on 2 angles, which means that the behirus, the making it, illuminating it, or shining it, or making it beautiful, is in a double angle. And that's what I was saying before. When we're counting, are we dealing with the nefesh elikis, or are we dealing with the nefesh habahamis? Is it a sormei ra experience, or is it an asay toiv experience? In other words, we said we were in mem tes shari tuma, and every day we're getting out of that more and more and more. But at the same time, we're also illuminating more and more and more, which means, again, it's given different opinions in different maimarim in different places. But there are places where it says that it refers to both, which means that when we say the Yehiratzin afterwards, we say v'taharenu ulekatshenu. So the taharenu is the surmei ra. That part is the birur of the nefesh habahamis. And then the katshenu is the asay toiv, where I'm beginning to draw down on my nefesh elikis, on the higher part of me, right? The mem tes shari kedusha. So from the nefesh habahamis, I'm removing the tuma, right? That's the part of getting rid of the surmei ra, getting rid of the mem tes shari tuma. And the nefesh elikis, I'm putting onto me the kedusha, the mem tes shari kedusha. And of course, the point is that the nefesh elikis together with the nefesh habahamis, right? The 2 of them together, b'chol avacha, that's the real preparation and the real being ready for Matan Torah. So I'm just going to go a little bit. I mean, there's a long mimer where the Rebbe discusses this at length and each part and each detail, and I don't want to go for too long, but I'm just going to go a little bit and show what does it mean when we're talking about these midas. We take the midah of chesed, right? So chesed starts off, that chesed is the inyan of ava. Avas olam ahavtich al kei meshachticha chesed. There's chesed shebechesed, right? And then there's chesed shebegvura, etc., etc. So chesed shebechesed is when the midah of chesed, that is an ava tivis that comes in a revealed way through chesed and ava. In other words, he's so happy and he's so good towards whatever it is that there's a revealed chesed and a revealed ava towards it. Like Keisha chesed, right? That just wants to do good to the other person, more and more good. Gives an example of a father to his son. He loves his son, and it's a natural love, and he wants to just do good to the son as much as he can. So what's chesed shebegvura? Chesed shebegvura is that because of this ava, because he loves his son so much, he will express gvura to anything that's blocking that. In any area where something is a challenge to the ava to his son, he's going to bring out the gvura. So which means he's going to hate any problems or any issues or any people who are a hindrance to this chesed that he has to his son. So the sinna, the gvura, is coming mitzad ava. It's coming because he loves so much. That's why it's coming. So big is the ava, right? That's why it's expressing a gvura to anything that's ruining it. Right? And that's why sometimes he'll give musar to his son, or he'll be machanech his son, and it may even come out in a strong way. It's all coming from a tremendous ava to the son, right? That may hinder in a way that may come out in a way of gvura. Then you have teferes. What does teferes shebechesed mean? Teferes shebechesed means that the chesed is in a way of teferes. Teferes is always, the roof of teferes means teferes la'adam, teferes la'makim. It always has to work together. If the Eibishter is happy with it, that means that man will be happy with it. If man is happy with it, that means that the Eibishter will be happy with it. the example of this is that if you ever see in chesed that he's being nice to bad people or being nice to negative things, you know that chesed is misplaced. But if chesed will mean that it'll always put the right balance, always with the understanding where should the ava be expressed, where should the chesed be expressed. Then you have netzach shebechesed, again, because of the tremendous ava that he has for whatever he likes. Because he loves the other person so much, he manages to be minatzeach. He'll win over anything that's in him that will interfere with this ava. So let's say he loves the son so much, right? But he sees in himself a negative characteristic that hinders that ava, or in anything that hinders that ava. So menatzeach, he's successful in winning over that and getting rid of that. Again, the ava is what's so important to him. So he's menatzeach that nothing should hinder anything that's hindering that ava. So that's netzach. Haid again is the idea of his lapshus hagvur v'nin hu lahapil ayev l'chveish m'chamis lahatzil ayev el yain. Again, haid will mean that he'll do active things to get rid of anything that hinders that ava. The difference between gvura and haid is that gvura, he'll just hate the other thing, and haid, he'll make sure to dismiss or get rid of the other thing. That's how it explains it over here. And then Yisaid Shebechesed is again, because of the ava, Yisaid means kesha, connection. Because of the ava, he'll connect practically, let's say, to his son. What's he learning? What's he doing? What does he have to eat? He'll take him. There'll be a daily, constant connection to the son. And the last one is interesting. Malchus always refers to dibur. Malchus means that because of the ava, he will talk about it. He'll say and express how much he loves his son and how unique his son is, etc., etc. So everything I said now can be put into two worlds. It can be used as a nefesh habahamis thing or a nefesh alekis thing. In the nefesh habahamis world, it's things that he likes, that the behemoth likes, that the behemoth wants. In the nefesh alekis, it's the same thing towards the Eibishter. So ava, tremendous love to the Eibishter, chesed shebechesed, right? That's completely extreme. And then gvura shebechesed will mean anything that's hindering his connection to the Eibishter. Any enemies, he's going to want to fight that. And teferes shebechesed, knowing exactly what does the Eibishter want, what does the Eibishter not want, not losing yourself, having the right, teferes is always the right balance, knowing what's the right thing. And then it goes on and explains the same thing in netzach, winning over things that are hindering his relationship. Haid, again, getting rid of things that are wrong. Yisaid, making that kesha, connecting to the Eibishter. And Malchus, talking about it. That's what he talks about. So again, I did this in very short. It's explained at length in the mimer. But the point is that we're trying to explain that in this counting, when we make every day count and every moment count, and we're connecting it to the concept of safir, which means to illuminate, we go through the midas. Every midah is connected to another part, whether I'm doing it in the Sur Meirah or I'm doing it in the Asay Tai. And really the right thing is at the same time to be doing both. That in the Sur Meirah, I'm feeling the behemoth part of these midas, you understand, connecting or correcting the behemoth part. And in the Asay Tai, where I'm doing it in the Eibishter's world, in the Nefesh Alekis world. In other words, how can my Nefesh Alekis have Hava B'Shleimus? Right? And then, of course, it expresses till Malchus, where you talk and speak about the Eibishter and you love towards the Eibishter and you express it to other people also. And here we come to the Hachana. This is the Shleimus of our Hachana to the Yontif of Shovuos. That the whole point of Shovuos, Matan Torah, is when we're standing ready to the Eibishter with the biggest bittul, after we illuminated, we counted and we illuminated and we waited with an excitement and we prepared our path to a real, what I found fascinating about this is that this sounds like a whole Avodah in itself, and that we're calling it a mamutza. We're calling it a preparation for the true Avodah, because really Avodah starts at Matan Torah. When we say Nasa v'nishma, and we get the Torah, and we start on a daily basis, binning the Eibishter the way we have to. So the mamutza, the lush of the mime is that it's a mamutza, it's how do you say, it's a way to get to, it's a, how do you say in English, it's like a get to. How do I get to starting a life of Avodah, from a life of Pesach that was a little bit like receiving, to a life of Shovuos that's going to be doing and doing and doing. So the path to that is going through the Sheva Midas, going through me as a person, going through every single day and every single part of my character, and how do you say, maneuvering it or channeling it towards the Eibishter, channeling it towards the Eibishter, both parts. My Nefesh Elikis and my Nefesh Bahamas together, channeling it towards the Eibishter. Then we're ready to come to Matan Torah and to actually receive the Torah and start our job, start that which we have to do. And that's the goal. It says that the 2 days of Shovuos are literally like Rosh Hashanah. Every moment is very precious and very unique. It's the kiddushin of Yidden and the Eibishter, right? Receiving and accepting and receiving the Torah. And so the preparation for that is where we just discussed the concept of Sefirah Saim. The lesson is that now we have added kedusha in the Nefesh Elikis and in the Nefesh Bahamas, and that's the lekavod Matan Torah, that we should be ready for Matan Torah. Anyway, it should be all the brachas for everybody. I wish I could speak to everyone individually. It's so nice to know that everybody's here. But
can I ask you a question?
Yes, of course.
Hi. The 7 midas, are they in order from like higher to lower or lower to higher? Meaning that Malchus is the top, or Malchus, I always thought that Malchus was the top. It was the ultimate. But really, Tanya says, like when it talks about an example of like a low-level neshama, it says even somebody who's like Malchus from the world of Asiya. So Malchus is actually the lowest?
You're asking a very good question. Malchus is always the lowest, but then becomes the highest once you get to the next level. He's like the transferring level. You understand? So when you're in the world of Atzilos, obviously Chachma is the highest and Malchus is the lowest. But then when you go to the world of Yetzirah, it's Malchus Bria, after Atzilos is Bria. So it's Malchus that's transferring to Bria, so he becomes now the highest. You understand? But as soon as you get into that world, he's now again going to become the lowest. You understand what I'm saying?
No.
You don't understand. If you take just the 7 midas, yes, Malchus is the lowest. But I'm explaining where you got the concept that it's the highest. Where did you get that from? Because every time you...
Just because I always thought that if we're counting up towards Matan Torah, it has to be... Oh, so we say it in that order. But I guess we say it in the lowest... I don't know.
Well, in the order that we say it, Malchus is always the lowest. Malchus is the lowest, the way you're saying it. But I'm saying you have this concept in your brain that it's the highest. This is coming from the idea that when you get to the next world, he's now the highest. He's like the, how do you call it? Like the transfer? I don't know what to call it. Like the, you understand? He's giving over to the next world.
I have, okay.
Yes, I think that's where you have this idea that he's the highest. But really, Malchus is the lowest. He has the Maila of including everything in it, from all the ones on top of him, it's all included in it, and he gives it over to the next. He's like a little bit like the Makabel, like the Malka in the palace. You know what I'm saying? The Makabel who receives it all and then gives it further.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Feldman. Thank you so much for your Vadamavete, and I hope we can all make our days count. So now we're ready for our next speaker for tonight, Mrs. Mushky. She's going to talk to us a little bit about the Parsha of the week. Personally, I really enjoy her weekly Parsha lessons. You can hear it on the telephone line. So, Mushky, we're ready to begin.
Hi, everybody. I'm a little nervous. But yeah, okay, let's go. So basically, this week's Parsha starts off, it's Parsha's B'chukaisai, and it starts off with the words, Im B'chukaisai Teilechu, which if we literally translate it, it means, if you go in my chukim, if you do the mitzvahs. And then Hashem goes on and says all the rewards that we'll get, v'nasati geshmeichem, the rewards that we'll get if we do the mitzvahs, and then there's all the haichacha and all the negative things that will happen if we don't do the mitzvahs. But the Gemara explains that the word im, which we usually translate as if, doesn't actually mean if, like Hashem's giving us an option, like, will you do my mitzvahs or won't you do my mitzvahs? But actually, it's tachanunim. It's a bakasha from Hashem. Hashem's kind of begging us and pleading us, please do my mitzvahs. Please go in the way of my mitzvahs, that we should be totally immersed in Torah. And this bakasha from the Eibishter comes as a two-part bakasha, a two-part thing. One thing is Hashem is saying, please go, and if you do that, I will give you the kaifa. I'm going to see the ability to do it, and also I will give you a haftacha, a guarantee that if you do go in the ways of the mitzvahs, you'll be able to keep all the mitzvahs. And we see this the same thing the Baal Tanya, the Alter Rebbe explains about Shema. We have this mitzvah in Shema, that you should love the Eibishter. And loving the Eibishter, and there's lots of explanations on this, all different areas of Chassidus. How can we love? Love is an emotion. How can we be told to love? But the Baal Tanya, the Alter Rebbe explains also that he says, du sollst liebhaben und du wirst liebhaben. You should love the Eibishter. And with this command and this thing Hashem telling us we should love the Eibishter, then you also will be able to love the Eibishter because Hashem is giving us the sivoy. So the Alter Rebbe says this applies also to all the mitzvahs, right? We know that Avas Hashem is the source for all the mitzvahs of the Torah. So Hashem has the same bakasha from us to please beg us to keep the mitzvahs, and at the same time, He's giving us an extra kayach and a haftacha that we will be able to keep the mitzvahs. So that's just one little part and focus. Now it continues and says, the word it chooses for mitzvahs, we know there's 3 different types of mitzvahs. There's mishpatim. Mishpatim are mitzvahs that make total sense to us. And Goyim understand it. Even if we didn't have a Torah, we would still do those mitzvahs. We understand them, and they, don't kill, don't steal, be nice. All the mitzvahs that make sense to everyone. Then we have edus. Edus are mitzvahs that we wouldn't necessarily have thought of on our own. But once we know the reason for them, it makes perfect sense why we're doing the mitzvah, whatever it is. Keep Shabbos because Hashem created the world in 7 days, or any other of the edus mitzvahs. And then we have chukim. Chukim are mitzvahs that have no place in our seichel. We never would have come up with them by ourselves. We don't understand them, right? Like shatnez, para aduma, and we still do them anyway because that's what Hashem tells us to do. And these mitzvahs we do from our Kabbalah's all. So by the Parsha being called B'chul Kaisai, with my chukim, even though in the Parsha there's mishpatim and edus, Hashem's kind of telling us that we should do all the mitzvahs in a way of chukim. We shouldn't do them because they make sense to us. We shouldn't do them because they fit well with us and that's like what we feel comfortable doing. I'm petrified to go up to someone with a gun and kill someone, and I would never ever want anyone to do that to me. That makes perfect sense to me. I'm very happy with that mitzvah. But the reason why we do it is because Hashem told us to do it. Just like any other chayk, the only reason we don't wear wool and linen together is because Hashem told us to. So every single mitzvah that we do, we should do with that level of the chol kaisai as a chayk, as a chuppah. It says chuppah hakakti gezerah gezarti. This is what Hashem wanted. This is my gezerah, and that's why we do it. Now, often when we think of a rule that makes no sense to us, it makes us feel very dry and boring and maybe even forced why we have to do this or what we have to do. So actually it says that when you do a mitzvah just because you're told to, or you have this Kabbalah's all, it also brings a level of kindness, of enjoyment, of pleasure. When you do something just because it makes sense, so it stays in seichel, it makes sense to you, so you do it and you stay with it. But when you do a mitzvah of Kabbalah's all, you're doing it because you're like Hashem's servant. Think about in the government, you have the king, and then you have the king's son, and then you have the king's students, and they have a personal connection to the king, and then you have the king's servant, and he's not necessarily so connected to the king or like has that relationship with the king, but when he's involved in something and he does it because the king wants him to do it and it happens, he also feels good that he has part in it and he did it and he did well. And that's kind of what Hashem's telling us. Even when you do mitzvah Kabbalah's all, when you tap into that part, you have that time that you can have that enjoyment as being Hashem's eved and being part of the picture of getting the job done. Now, what does it say? What's the reward if you do these mitzvahs? And we have both sides. It says first, we'll get a rain at the right time. And that is both gashmiistic rain and ruchniistic rain. Like it says, the Torah will flow down like water. So one of the rewards is the ruchniistic reward that we get from doing mitzvahs is light of Torah, and even more the Torah we have nowadays, the Torah of Mashiach, which we know the Torah of nowadays is nothing compared to the Torah of Mashiach. And then there's the nice reward that we all want, we all appreciate, which is the Gashmias reward. That we should have good Gashmias, good everything that we need, health, parnasa, anything that you could think of, physical good life. And that this good life is not going to stop us from serving Hashem, it's actually going to help us from serving Hashem. Rabbah said that he wasn't able to fully understand the Gemara. He says until he ate a piece of good flesh, he wasn't able to learn Torah on such a deep level. Until he had this good geschmack and this physical satisfaction and enjoyment from this good piece of meat, what he says. That's when he was able to have this good geschmack in ruchnis and really, really get the Torah. So the reward for keeping all these mitzvahs is that we should be able to serve the Eibishter with everything we need, with menuchas hanefesh, with hachava, and we know ourselves how we're able to be better people and do mitzvahs better and do everything better when we ourselves are satisfied, when we're calm, when we're not worried, when we don't have worries of parnasa or health or all these things. And so the reward for doing the mitzvahs is making you have that menuchas hanefesh, that hachavas hadas, that anything you need, that physically good gashmias, that's going to help you serve Hashem better. Not take away that gashmi should be a distraction from what you are supposed to be doing, but the gashmi is the physical health, the physical goodness enables you to be a better yid. And then we know also that the Parsha continues and has a lot of rebukes, of negative things, of the haichacha. What's going to happen if you don't do the Torah mitzvahs? And it's very interesting because the Hachana, the Alter Rebbe, and the Torah, he takes all these curses and he explains how they really are good things. There's a story, and it fits in very nicely with the time of year that we're at, that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, he once sent his son, Rabbi Elazar, to Rabbi Yochanan ben Amasya and Rabbi Yehuda ben Gerim. They were leaving his house, and he told his son, go follow them and ask them to bench you. So he followed them, his son ran after them as they were leaving, and he asked them for brachas. And they started telling him all these brachas, and he comes home to his father, and he says, his father's like, oh, what did they say? He's like, they didn't even give me brachas, they actually gave me colors. So his father said, what did they say to you? So I'm saying, I looked it up in the Gemara, and in the English it says, Shetizra v'loy tiksar. You should plow your field, and you won't grow, you won't cut anything, you won't harvest anything. Shetavi sechara limka loy tuchal amacha. You're going to bring things to sell, and you won't sell them. Yechar Beischa, your house will be destroyed. You're not going to see a new year. He's like, they just gave me a bunch of colors. They didn't even give me a bracha. They gave me a whole lot of colors. And his father turned to him and he said, let me explain to you what they were saying. These are what they told you is real brachas. And he explained each one. He said, what does it mean that you'll plant and you won't cut? Planting means to have children, but you won't cut, so children won't pass away. You won't bury those children. What does it mean that you'll bring stuff to sell? You'll have Sefirah and you won't sell it. He says Sefirah is when your sons will marry daughters. They'll come to live by your sons, right? That's the way of the world, that the sons will come to live with their wives. But your sons, if your sons would pass away, what would happen? Those women would go back to their father's house. But you're going to have sons that will get married, but you won't sell it. They won't go back home. So your sons will live and they'll live with their wives. What does it mean your house will be destroyed? So Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai explained that Olam Hazeh, we live here a short time, it's temporary. And the kever is where we live a long time. So the kever refers to your house, means your kever, where you spend a long, long time in your life. So by saying that your house is going to be destroyed, it means you're going to have Chaim Aruchim. Or what does it mean that you won't see a new year? So they said the term Shana Chadasha is like Shana Rishayna. That your wife won't pass away and you won't have to get married again and have a new Shana Rishayna. So for the Rashbi, all these things that we heard 2 minutes ago that sound like, unsuccessful in business, no house, everyone dying, he totally took it and changed it around into brachas. Now, why did he do that? He didn't take it and change it around. The Rashbi, we know, had a different purpose in life. Some people are here for not different purpose. His job here was to reveal the hidden part of Torah, right? He wrote the Zohar. He revealed the hidden part of Torah, the guided Torah. So what happens? We know that everything is from the Eibishter and in Rayered Min Shemaya, right? There's nothing bad that comes down here. But the way the world is set up, sometimes we get from Hashem's open light and we see Hashem, we see the brachas openly. And sometimes it says, we're in a shadow, we're in the shade, and we don't see the goodness. We're kind of like Hashem's light is shining, and then there's something blocking the goodness, blocking the light. That means that we see it as darkness, right? But we know that the only reason why there's a shadow is because there's a sun that's shining. Where there's no sun shining, there's no shadow. So obviously everything Hashem's giving to us is coming from that sun, and it's fully, fully good in its source. But somehow it comes down here, and it comes down here in a way of Yisurim. And we just have the challenge, we just have the darkness, we don't see Hashem's good hand, we don't see how this could be good for us. And they say that when Mashiach comes, everything will be revealed, the sun will be taken away. The sun is going to be shining so powerfully, and then we'll be able to see why all these challenges and all these darkness and all these hard things that we go through are really good, because the shadow will be taken away. Whatever was blocking the sun's light, and we're behind that blockage, will be taken away. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, even when he was living in this world, he had that neshama. His job was to reveal the Gilui of Mashiach. So it wasn't that he took his son's klolos and for them in a way that it looked like brachas. He just saw it as brachas. He could see the sun shining. He wasn't behind the shadow. He was before the shadow came. So that's what the Pnimis HaTorah does. It helps us reveal and uncover the shadow and everything and see what's really, really good. So even in this week's Parsha, we have all these scholars. That's how the Alter Rebbe, and they explain, it says that like 10 women are going to bake their bread in one oven, which we think means you're so poor that all the food you're going to have is just 10, even 10 women will only need one oven to bake their bread. And Hasidus explains that, what does it mean that 10 women will bake their bread in one oven? 10 women refers to the Esther and Nefesh, right? The Sefirah and the Chacham and the Das that we have. And we're all going to be like one. We're going to be united. We're going to use everything we have to serve the Eibush in one way. So, like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, he has the Pnimis reveals to us the light behind the shade, which is what Mashiach is going to be. Mashiach is going to be Kul Iyar, of, Laila Kalayim Iyar. Night is going to shine like day. There's not going to be any shadows. We're not going to be stuck behind the shadow. And that's why we need to learn Hasidus now, because Hasidus helps us now, just like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, he was in the Galus world, but he saw the light. So too, when we learn Hasidus now, it removes that darkness, removes that layer, and it enables us to see the light in the darkness, to see the sunshine, to see Hashem, how he really intended it and how it should be. And we should not just understand it how it should be, but with Mashiach coming, we should actually be in the sunshine very quickly. Good Shabbos, everybody.
Thank you so much, Mushka. You had no reason to be nervous. You seem like a real natural at this. And
Thank you.
yes, thank you so much. And now, Mrs. Piekarski, we're all eagerly awaiting and looking forward to Farbrengen with you together.
Hello, everybody. I would like to, if anyone can show themselves on the video, if you could please show yourself, because it is extremely difficult to Farbrengen to blank screens. We were introduced as mashpiyos. I don't know if we deserve, I'll talk about myself. I don't know if I deserve that title, but it's very hard to be mashpia when you can't see the makabel. So it's a very interesting experience that we've been having for the last few weeks, where we're trying to teach over Zoom. Every day we teach. I teach about 2 hours a day on the Zoom, and it's just amazing to see how difficult it is to actually do it, because when one of the classic examples of mashpia and makabel is a Rav in Talmud, and it explains in Chassidus that the Talmud, the student brings out koiches from the Rav. So any person who I'm talking to from the teacher's perspective about how is it working with the whole Zoom, and you'd think it would be easy if you can see the people that you're talking to, but even with the seeing, the energy doesn't come through the computer, right? So all the koiches have to come from the Rav, from the teacher, and it's unbelievable how hard it is. So if I at least can see people, that will help. So obviously, if we're going to Farbrengen about the matzav that we're all in now, and try to bring a Hasidic perspective on and some kind of sense and meaning into this very I don't even know how to describe this matzav, this like unprecedented, something that none of us have ever experienced, and to bring some light into this, because that's what Hasidus does. So we're coming up to Shovuos, and the question always is, so how do we prepare for this Yontif? So I want to go back to Pesach and to talk about how the perspective on Pesach, and let's transfer it over to Chassidus, over to Shovuos. So at Pesach, when we realized that our Pesach is going to look very, very different this year than any other year. The discussion in the family was, from the kids, there was like this uproar. We were supposed to have my brother come with his whole family. I'm sure this is all a very familiar situation. And the consensus was, it doesn't pay to have a Seder. It doesn't really pay to have Pesach altogether, because what's the point of Pesach without the family and the 40 people by the Seder and that whole experience? So we had a conversation, we sat down and we spoke to our children, and the message that we brought out was that Pesach is still Pesach, right? Pesach is about Yitzias Mitzrayim. The Seder is about the transmission of Messiah from father to son, right? The mitzvah of the day is a matzah, right? That is the essential messages of Pesach. And none of that changed, at least for our family. Baruch Hashem, we had all our kids there, right? None of that changed. So yes, the Seder looked very different than what we're used to, but the essential messages of the Yontif were there, right? What happens is that we, as human beings, we add layers to, and levushim, external clothing to everything, right? There's the essence of something, and then there's all the external layers for that thing. So when you have, so let's say, for example, when we talk about what is Pesach about, what do the children look forward to Pesach? What is the mother looking for? What is the father looking forward to Pesach? A lot of times it's the levushim that we're looking forward to. So the mother is excited about it having her iniklach over, and whatever it is, right? And the kids are excited about their new shoes. And all of that is part of Yontif, right? We have the concept of Simchas Yontif, right? It's in halacha. But all those are the layers of the Yontif. It's the levushim, right? What is the essence of the Yontif? What's the essence? And this applies to everything, actually, right? We have the essence of every concept or every part of our life, and then we have all the layers. If any of you experience any kind of Hachana nowadays, this is also very clearly seen with our Chasanas, right? All the layers of our Hachana, which is about 99% of what we focus on when we make a Hachana, is gone, right? It's not there anymore. But what is essentially a Hachana? Essentially, a Hachana is the union between a Chassan and a Kala, right? The two neshamas come together through the Kiddushim, right? So actually, 99% of the Hachana happens. It's the 1% that's not happening, right? It's the essence of the Hachana is happening. That's what the Hachana is all about. But we, as a society in general, have completely, I won't say completely, but we have been very sidetracked by our layers. We've been very sidetracked by the levushim, right? And most of our energy and our thoughts and are focused on the levushim and not on the essence. Comes this matzav right now, right? And strips away a lot of the external layers of our life, and in even beruchnius as well, right? That means that so much what we consider ourselves as from a Yidden are no longer there, right? So for a man, his minyan was stripped away, his mikvah was stripped away. These are like things that are very important to a Chassidish man, right? A Yiddish man, and that's taken away from him by force, okay? As women, right, I think we're maybe a little bit more connected to the essence, right? But we have to, let's think about it. When you think about our Hachanas for Yontif, how much of our Hachanas for Yontif this year are not applicable, right? If we have little kids, we spend weeks and weeks and weeks making sure our children are matching from the bow down to the shoes, right? So you can take our kids to shul, for Seres Adivres, and everyone can see how beautiful our children look and how adorable, and that I don't think it's going to happen this year, right? So there's almost no point, Chas v'shalom, right? Well, what is the point? wait a minute. Let's think about it. What is Shavuos all about, right? What is Shabbos all about? All of a sudden, we have to ask ourselves, okay, once this is all taken away from us, right? And that taking away from us is not a pleasant process. It's very confusing for us. It's does not make us feel good, right? Because we're stripping layers. And when you strip layers, it's painful. But when you ask yourself, wait, what is this really all about? And we focus on the essence can never be taken away, right? Nothing has a kayach to take away the essence. And that we still have, okay? The essence of Shavuos is going to be Kabbalah, Satira, Besimcha, Ubepnimia. So that is what Shavuos is about, right? I went to Muncie today to go do my Shavuos shopping, and I couldn't find cream cheese. And I said, I don't think I was going to go shopping once, and I can't get cream cheese in Morristown, so I don't know if we're going to have cheesecake this year. And Shavuos without cheesecake, I have milchek. It's fine. You need to have milchek. Nowhere does it say you have to have cheesecake on Shavuos, but it doesn't feel like it's Shavuos without the cheesecake. And that's something that I feel. When the kids weren't talking, I was saying that. Shavuos without cheesecake? What do you do, right? I'm sure I can find a recipe you can make cheesecake without cream cheese. But again, and then all of a sudden it's like, what? Shavuos is cheesecake, right? Shavuos is Kabbalah's Hatira, okay? And that is something like, it's constantly reasserting to us, don't forget what is the real neshama of everything. We have to try to not allow ourselves to get sidetracked by the fact that our levushim are not sitting comfortably the way they did for the last however many years we're alive. This is how our levushim looked, right? This is how Yiddishkeit looked. And all of a sudden, even temporarily, that's been stripped away. So we have to make sure, wait, let's not lose our balance, because the essence is there. The most important thing is there. And so it's something to focus on. And the Chassidus Bechlal is that is the concept of Chassidus. Like, the levushim are important, right? The levushim of our neshama are important. The levushim of our Yiddishkeit is important. Even our own levushim are important, right? Our personalities, our seichel, it's all important, okay? But it's not the essence of everything. It's not the essence. When the levushim get taken away, the essence shines through. And when another way of describing the essence shining through is actually Mesiras Nefesh, right? So when there's a state of Mesiras Nefesh, everything else falls away. The seichel falls away, the midas fall away, all the value systems fall away, and the only thing that shines is the essence, and the essence, the only thing that exists, the only thing that's important is Elokus, Einad Movade. So in a way, if we can think about it, there's a certain level of Mesiras Nefesh that's being demanded from us, that we have to ask ourselves, okay, this is a challenge, right? This is, and for some of us, it's more of a challenge. For some of us, it's less of a challenge, depending if we're dealing with sickness within our own family, depending if we're dealing with loss in our own families, depending on how uncomfortable our lives are, how small our house is. There's different levels over here, and everyone's dealing with it differently. But there's always was this sense of, like, in our generation, we don't really have Mesiras Nefesh. Previous generations had Mesiras Nefesh. The women had to have Mesiras Nefesh for basic Yiddishkeit in Russia, in the Holocaust. And our generation, we have cushy lives, right? Like, things are easy, okay? And Mesiras Nefesh is a theoretical concept. I think that actually, in a certain way, this matzah is a call for Mesiras Nefesh. And you want to like think about this, where in Ritz Hashem this is going to be over, right? Where this is a small period of time, and we want to be able to turn around and look back at this period of time and say, it was a challenge. The Eibishter wanted me to plunge deep into myself, right? To overcome that challenge, and I can say that I did it, right? I can say how I did it, right? So again, everyone's challenge is going to be different, right, in this period. But everyone is somewhat challenged, right? So we ask ourselves, the Eibishter never puts us in a situation that we can't manage. That's first of all. So we all have the kayach to do this, okay? Second of all, we're all going to come through this differently, and different things are being demanded from us differently. But I feel like, you know, there was before Pesach, it was just like, okay, we have to get through Pesach. Right? To make Pesach, get through Pesach, and then we'll talk about after Pesach, right? Maybe school reopen, things are going to get better after Pesach. And then towards the end of Pesach, we started getting the sense that, okay, this is not going away, and now we have to have a plan, okay? And I was thinking that we all have things that we say, when the time comes, I will do this. Okay? Right now, I have no time, but I wish I could do this, right? And I said, you know what? I think this is the time, because even though our lives are hectic, most of us have a little bit, it's definitely very chaotic and just because it's just confusing, but we all, most of us have a little bit more time, right? So let's say, for example, I know for myself, instead of teaching 25 hours a week, I'm teaching 10, right? Which is all of a sudden I have now 12 hours a week, and those hours can fly without me doing anything. But I said, no, I want to be able to say, I went through this corona and this is what came out of it, right? I learned this, I'm able to do this, right? Something good and positive came out of it, something that I didn't have before and now I have it, right? I was just, this is my own personal journey, but I think that it's like, everyone can apply this, that it's not just about surviving this, okay? It's not just that we holding our breaths, we're davening every single day that school should reopen and please camp should open, otherwise we don't know what's gonna happen, right? And we're just surviving. That's not, the idea, that's not really what the ultimate experience can be. The ultimate experience can be, this is putting me in a unique situation, and in Mitzvah Shem, none of us will ever experience this again, right? Shem Shishmar, that none of us should ever experience such a thing again. So this is a unique experience. How is this going to affect me? How did I grow through this experience? What came out better because of this? And you know, it's very interesting because I'm speaking to a lot of people, and you get to hear different things. So like one person was telling me, you know, I have a child, he's 7 years old. This is the best thing that ever happened for him. School was terrible for him. He's home now. I'm helping him. And she's like, I would never have done this without being forced to do this, obviously, because who keep their 7-year-old child home and help them, right? But this has forced me to, and I'm so grateful to the Eibishter that this happened, right? So it was like, this is great, right? Another person tells me, I'm so happy that my husband's home all day, right? He's a Rosh Yeshiva in Yeshiva. He works from 7:30 in the night till 7:30 in the morning to 9:30 at night. He's never around. She's like, he's home now. It's great. She also has like 7 kids under the age of 8 at home with her, but her husband's home, so she's great. She's happy. Right? So in a certain way, there's a lot of blessing that could be found if we just focus on that part. Like, what is the goodness that we can get out of this? What is the goodness that we can experience? Now, I'm not trivializing the challenges, okay? I'm not romanticizing this experience that this is just wonderful and glorious. No, but if we want to be able to not just survive, but to thrive, we have to ask ourselves, what am I going to find in myself? What koyach, what thought process, what attitude can I find in myself that I can reveal in me through this experience that will then be a bracha to me, to my family, to my students, wherever it is, that some kind of maila, like, you know, you talk about the Iyar that comes out of the chayshech. What's going to be your specific Iyar that comes out of this chayshech, okay? So it's something that we can talk about. If anyone wants to share something, I would love to hear that. If anyone feels comfortable sharing. I'll just say one little thing. It's a very trivial thing, but for years and years and years, I've been told that I need to make my sheets on the computer. I have a terrible handwriting, okay? And the girls are not used to reading handwritten. No one's used to reading handwriting anymore, right? No one knows how to decipher handwriting anymore. And my handwriting's not getting better over time because I'm getting more and more rushed as I make my sheets. And I've learned now how to make my sheets on the computer because I have to send them all computerized. And it's unbelievable. I see how the learning is amazing for the kids if they have computerized sheets. It takes me
Amazing.
it started off with like 3 hours per sheet, and now I'm down to like 45 minutes per sheet. But even something like trivial like that, that's not an earth-shattering mile, but it's a little bit of ours that I could say, you know what? I would never have done this if I didn't have to, and now I can do it, right? Question's gonna happen, what happens after this is all over and we don't have Wi-Fi in our house anymore? That's a whole different situation. I'm going to show that they come soon. Okay. So if anyone wants to share anything that they'd like about that concept, I think it would be nice. Farbrengen means that we share, not.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm just a question. Like you say, you should grow from experience. I'm just curious how to utilize certain feelings. Okay. So I remember when a few weeks ago when a lot of people were passing away, unfortunately. So a lot of people going around a very bad news. And before Parsha still, a neighbor on my block passed away, and everybody's very doomed and sad and whatever. I couldn't focus. You know, like it was hard to make Parsha when a lady on your block just lost her husband. It was very traumatizing. And people going around saying, no, don't look at the news, don't listen, don't know, it's fine, just you be happy. It was like I was like, it doesn't make sense. You know, it doesn't make sense to tell someone it doesn't look like a Avodah Hashem. It's just like, oh, just don't know what's doing and just you be in your own world and close your doors and be happy. On the other hand, it's like going around in a bad mood also wasn't. I really want to know what's the correct approach when you hear suffering.
Okay, so I feel like this is something that in general is important, that I don't know that we were ever supposed to know all the bad news that ever existed in the whole world. Okay, so
Right.
Let's say 200 years ago, they had to deal with the suffering of their shtetl, right? They didn't even know what was happening in the neighboring shtetl, right? It took 3 months for the news to come to the neighboring shtetl. So everyone dealt with the tsaros of their shtetl, and they were able to really feel each other's pain because it was tolerable. It was absorbable, okay? It was pain that you knew the person, right? And it's your pain. And that is appropriate because when we share each other's pain, we help each other, okay? Nowadays, with internet and social media or whatever it is, even if not with that, we still have news flying. We are bombarded by tsaros, right? Tsaros of people we didn't know existed before, right? We have no idea who they are, and it's tsar, right? You hear of a person in Germany that passed away, a shliach, and lost 8 kids, and he passed away and he left 8 kids. It's gefährlich. I didn't know that shliach existed. I don't know who he was, but it's gefährlich. And then you see about a person in Muncie. I don't know who they are. I don't even know what community he lives in, and leaves 11 children. You go crazy. But eventually, what happens is 2 things can happen. One is you go into a matzav of complete despair, right? And no one was ever supposed to, in any way, process 14 levayas a day. But that's not a number that we can process. So we shut down. And we either go into despair or we go into apathy. Like you can't handle it, so you just stop feeling that, right? You stop really feeling pain, which is gefährlich. Another yid passed away, and all you do is go, Aish, and you move on and you continue with your supper, right? A yid passed away. So if you can't really feel the pain and you can't really help them, it's better not to know about it. You understand what I'm saying? So I feel like, in a way, scrolling through all the different Jewish websites, right, to find out how many Yidden passed away, right, and who they are and what their names are, there's nothing that comes out of that, right? So when you describe your neighbor, Nebuch, on your block, and she passed away, right, you should be in pain from that. The Yid passed away, you know her, right? That is painful, and Yidden should feel each other's pain, right? Is there a mila to going and seeking out bad news? I don't see why. Like, How is that going to help you do what you need to do, right? And how are you going to help them? So if you are a millionaire, right, and you can mamish help them financially, strangers, then you should know about it. You should be giving tons of tzedakah, right? Help them, right? If you're part of some kind of organization that can help people, then you need to know so you can help. But if you're a Yiddish Bible sitting in your kitchen, right? How is it helpful to you or your family when you know all the tzaros of all of Klal Yisrael? So in a way, like, I don't think we're supposed to like put on, blindfolds and walk around saying everything is good, everything is good. That's narsh, right? On the other hand, to see, there's also this a human tendency to scratch at itches. You know what I'm saying? To probe at wounds. Yeah. So there we are fascinated, unfortunately, by bad news. That's why when you have an accident on the highway, there's traffic on both sides, right? The side that the accident is and the other side, because if someone sees an accident, they need to look. What happened? Oh, it's terrible. Don't look. You're not going to stop and help them. Why are you looking? You understand what I'm saying? Right? So if it's in your capacity to reach out and help, to even share their pain, of course you should, right? But if it's stam spectator, it's stam just curiosity, chas v'shalom, or just fascination by nebach tzaris, there's no mila from it, and it also, there's a chisaron that it pulls us down.
I hear you. It makes sense a lot. But let's say situation that you actually hear, your neighbor, something. I think everybody heard enough without looking at the news, unfortunately.
Right, unfortunately.
Is there any mile of this? You automatically feel down. Should you strengthen yourself and say, no, be happy? Or it's like, it's confusing because on one hand, you have to be simcha, but like, on the other hand, it feels so wrong to be your jolly self. Like, I know somebody, she was making pies like regular, like just, and like any other year, didn't know about anything. Her neighbor on her block passed away. This is a different extreme. Her neighbor on her block passed away. And she's like, listen, it's my shirt and whatever. And she's like, just don't go. This is like one extreme. I know it's not right, but like, what is the balance over here?
It's a good question. It's like there's the simcha that we're supposed to have in our life. It is not supposed to come because life is good.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
The simcha that I have in our life is that we're lucky to be Yidden, to serve the Eibishter, right, and to connect with the Eibishter, and that gives us simcha, hopefully, right? That tzaris can't take away.
Right, like
it's a very high level, but tzaris can't take that away. Now, I feel like it's the simcha of Yontif, of making Yontif, right? It's that's real simcha. And at the same time, there should be a real sensitivity and a tefillas for people that are suffering, right? And reaching out, because we can't be as long as we're okay, chas v'shalom, right? We're Yidden, we're supposed to feel each other's pain.
Exactly.
But I remember a long time ago in Morristown, there was one of my student in 11th grade or 10th grade, her mother passed away when she was in 11th grade, and then a couple of years later her father passed away. She was already married, Baruch Hashem, but her father passed away. It was so devastating, so devastating as a community, and all her friends were devastated because now she's an orphan from both sides. And I remember one of her friends calling me up in tears and really challenging. How can the Eibishter do something like this? This is so wrong, and really almost edging on a lack of emunah and challenging the Eibishter. And my response to her was, just 1 second, this is Razav. My response to her was, your pain and your lack of emunah and your questioning the Eibishter helping this person? Is it giving her chizuk? Is it taking away her tsar in any way? No. So how dare you, who's not suffering, indulge in this lack of emunah and in this anger of the Eibishter, right? That's not appropriate. right? So on one hand, our chas v'shalom, our yeshus, not yeshus, I meant to say yush. If our despair, I'm not talking about anyone who's suffering internally, I'm talking about from other people, right?
About listening to pain to other people is also very,
Yes, 100%. But you cannot compare the pain of someone who lost a spouse to a neighbor, right? So you have to ask yourself, is your yeush really helping anybody, right? Is your despair or chas v'shalom a little depression? Is it bringing goodness? Where is it coming from? Mrs. Morosow wants to share something, and I want to hear what she has to say.
I just want to add to what she's saying, that when we connect to the Eibishter is nimna. The Eibishter could do two opposites at the same time. So if it's not about ourselves, if it's about the Eibishter, we see many times in Yiddishkeit that we do have two opposites. For example, we have a mitzvah that b'tachin, everything will be good. At the same time, we have a mitzvah to daven every day to turn to Hashem to fill our needs. We say Rafa'enu and Shema Kereinu and all our physical needs. So it seems like almost two opposites. I feel a need, I feel a lack. On one hand, we're supposed to feel the lack and turn to the Eibishter. At the same time, we're supposed to have the talking that everything will be good. So it doesn't have to be two opposites. If it comes from bittul, it's not about me and what I feel. It's about what does the Eibishter want from me. Then we can focus on something higher, that I feel the pain of another Yid because we're all connected. It doesn't matter if the Yid is my neighbor, my friend, all neshamas are connected. And because all neshamas are connected, of course, every neshama's pain is our pain as well. So yes, we feel the pain. But on the other hand, what does the Eibishter want from me right now? Is the pain supposed to stop me from the other part of the story, which is Ivdos Hashem b'simcha, making my home environment the positive one, celebrating Shabbos and Yontif. And even when the Yidden went through tremendous pain and suffering, let's say the Holocaust, every day they still davened, Moedim anachnu loch, in Shemona Esrei, thank Hashem for whatever it is. So if it's about ourselves, if we get caught up with ourselves and our own feelings, it seems like a confusion. What am I supposed to do? Am I allowed to feel this? Am I allowed to feel that? But instead of focusing on ourselves, we say, what does the Eibishter want from me? We can float between two opposites, and one is not a contradiction to the other.
Kaya. Thank you very much, Ms. Morosow. Okay, so I don't know how much time we have here. I can't see anyone now. I did something to my computer, and I can't see what I just did. Okay, I'm just going to talk. All right, so there we go. I think also it would be very helpful now if we could share practical tips of how we could make our Yontif special. Because Shovuos is coming up, it's in 2 weeks. It's very likely that we're all going to be quarantined in our homes still, without Sarah's Dibris and without guests. And so again, our regular Yontif is not going to be the same. So I think it'd be very valuable to share some practical tips. I'll start with myself because I'm the one that's talking, but I'm sure everybody has something to add. So please be brave and add. After 2-3 weeks of having Shabbos with all of us home, and we were facing a 3-day Yontif, one of my teenage daughters said, we got to do something. This is not going to work. So she said, why don't we make minyan in our house? And I said, what do you mean? She said, let Tati. What was happening was that everyone was just davening on their own. My husband was davening in the dining room. My son was davening on his own. And I was making the salads. I davened afterwards. Everyone was just davening on their own. So she said, we'll all get dressed to go to shul. The Viber shul is going to be in the living room. The men's section is going to be in the dining room. Tati's going to daven out loud. And we're going to daven with him. And we're going to make it feel like davening. So I have to tell you, we did this. It was, I was so grateful for my daughter for coming up with this idea. It was so beautiful. First of all, the davening was 10 times beautiful than it usually is in shul, by the way. It was so slow and it was so heartsick. And we literally all got dressed up. I wore my sheitel, I put on tights and heels. My girls all got dressed up from head to toe. These, again, remember, we spoke about the essential and like the levushim and all that. that was bringing back some of our own levushim, right? It gave us a sense of going to shul, of having a beginning and an end of the tefillah, and it brought a feeling of yontif into my house. And it brought a feeling of tefillah into the house, so that there was a sense of, okay, now we finished davening. We said good yontif to each other. Now we'll start the meal. And it was so valuable. I would love to hear other people, because I think that we have to help each other. We have to help each other in this matzav, and we all have different ideas of how we can make this work. I was just thinking of one example. I'm sure everyone has some examples. Does anyone want to share? There's a lot of people on here that are on the phone. You can share if you're on the phone, and we don't even have to know who you are.
First of all, I could share my cheesecake with you if you don't have.
Thank you. Good. Yeah.
Well, maybe I could share something that a good thing that I took out was that I always know I have to train my boys to help me, because I have 6 boys, and it's very nice if the girls know how to do everything, but and this was a great opportunity. We really got them, started from the small things until washing the floors in the bathroom. So I think it was really a great thing that came out of the whole situation.
Your daughter-in-laws are going to be very grateful.
Yes, and I think I'll be grateful first.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Would anyone else would like to share? It's a very practical thing, actually. No? I wish I had a whole list of things I can brag about of what I'm doing in my house, but I don't. That was the one example I have and the only example I had. Someone has to help me out over here. You know what? Actually, the truth of the matter is that we should really focus on like every one of our children, right? And ask ourselves, like, we're spending a lot more time with our children than we've ever spent in our lives. And I do mommy camp a whole summer. I spend a lot of time with my kids, and still this is because during the summertime we're just traipsing all over the county, right? Going everywhere, and we're all distracted. This is literally focused time, right? Where we're all together learning how to get along and learning how to make the day be meaningful and worthwhile in close quarters, right? With not that many distractions. It was like at one point I had this epiphany that I think this is how it used to be in the shtetl, right? The mother was home all day with all her girls all day, right? The girls didn't go to school. And she literally was machanech her daughters. So first of all, I think it's something that we have to think about ourselves, right? We have to really look in the mirror and say, we're right now the one dugma chaya for our daughters, one living dugma chaya that's not coming through a phone or through a computer for our daughters and our sons. So are we living up to that challenge of being that one real example? I feel like as the years moved along and our chinuch has gotten more and more, I guess, progressive, and our children are staying longer and longer in schools and starting earlier and earlier, a lot of the chinuch of our children we've sort of delegated out, right? So we expect the kids to know everything from school. They come home and they hopefully learn something. And our chinuch has been, we've taken less responsibility for the chinuch of our kids. And I feel like this has really forced us to refocus on the chinuch of our children. Because even if our kids are going on Zoom school or going on the phone school, whatever was happening, they're still spending a lot of time with us. And again, the connection's not the same when you're not in the classroom with a living, breathing person. So we are that living, breathing person that's going to show our kids and teach our kids what Shovuos is about this year, more than anything else. I have a 2.5-year-old kid, and my kids are saying, Mom, this kid doesn't know that shul exists, right? When you're 2.5, 3-4 months, things recede out of your memory, right? So he's like, he's not going to know that there's such a thing as shul. He's going to think Yiddishkeit starts and ends in our house. And the truth of the matter is that actually is true. Yiddishkeit does really start and end in the home. the outside the home is really all the extras. It's inside the home that is the real engine of the Yiddishkeit. It's the real transmission of chinuch is inside the home. And maybe that message had to be emphasized to all of us, that the Yiddishkeit starts and ends primarily in our home, and let's make sure we're doing that job to the best of our ability. Does anyone have any questions or any thoughts they'd like to share?
Hello?
I hear somebody. Yes, we hear you.
Yeah, I'm on the phone. I'm not on Zoom.
I
How
hear
are you? Thank you so much. Yeah, I just want to say, you know, like sort of like to reiterate what you said about the spending time with children. It's amazing because most of my boys go out to some kind of structured part of the day. But, you know, I'm taking them, I'm picking them up, they go later, they come home earlier. And it's just, I'm seeing more of them. And, you know, sometimes it gets overwhelming, but it's really nice to get to know my boys. Girls are home more anyway, you know, but the boys, I don't know, I have a boy that was an out-of-town yeshiva, came home just for Shabbos, and now he's out of the house. There's a few hours a day, but he's home, he eats supper here, he goes to sleep here. I don't know, it's just, I'm getting to know him all over again. It's very nice.
It's nice that you can see that it's nice instead of it being an absolute tragedy
know
that we
if
have to
I
spend
can-
time with our children.
I don't know if I always see it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to be honest. But sometimes I'm like, well, I am their mother and this is their house, so why shouldn't they be home? You know, this is like after it sank in that this is the way it is anyway. I might as well accept it. And after Pesach, I think, like, I don't know, like when the panic of like, we made Pesach, we did it, okay, now what? I really thought everything was going to go back to normal after Pesach. But then I'm thinking, what does normal mean your kids never being home? What does normal mean, like, I don't even know what they learn, where they learn. Well, why was that okay? And this is crazy, you know what I mean? Like, whatever. I think we're redefining the word normal.
That's actually a really good point. And I feel like the truth of the matter is if anyone would have asked us, they would have presented the scenario to us. You're going to spend, where are we holding now? 2 months? 2.5 months?
No more.
2.5 months?
Yeah.
I think it's 2.5 months. You're going to spend 2.5 months with all your children home 90% of the time, right? I think all of us would have said there is no way we could survive that. Either we're not going to survive it, or chas v'shalom, our children are not going to survive it. Somewhere it's not going to work, right? And Baruch Hashem,
So far,
there's
so good.
not just a sense of
about this.
surviving, but it also has to be a sense of a benefit that's coming out of it, a real benefit that we can turn to and say, this is like an amazing Baila. Even just something simple. I see my baby, right? So he was in daycare.
Yeah, company all day, right?
Yeah, well, first of all, then not just the company, the security that he has from knowing that his mother and his father are not going anywhere. So I used to, before this, I used to leave the house 8:30 and come home 1:30, right? Some days I came home 3:30. So he was in daycare for a big bulk of the day, and I would drop him off, and children don't have a sense of time. And you say, I'm coming back, and you don't know what that means, right? So anytime I would put on my shaitel, right? Because I don't leave the house without a shaitel, he would immediately spiral into a panic because he didn't know when I was coming home. He didn't know if I was running to the store for 20 minutes or if I was or if I was leaving for 5 hours, right? And then after a week of us not moving anywhere, basically, or one of us was always home, either my husband or me, it was a sense of like, it's good. He stopped even asking us where we're going, right? It was the most amazing thing to see that sense of security. And the truth of the matter is, like when you say it's normal, why is it normal that our children don't know where we are most of the day, right? Like that stuff is not really so great for them. So like, just for him to, in this vulnerable stage of his life when he's young, I'm so grateful for the fact that he can have that sense of security. Shikayach. Anybody else would like to share something of art?
Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, hi. I'm a mother of young kids. And I felt right after Pesach that I'm starting to tune out. I was busy taking care of them, but not being there with them. What I found that helped me immensely was whenever I felt myself like getting lost in the clouds and just into the task, not into the kids, I made sure to make eye contact with the kids. It brought me back down, and I felt like I'm building a connection with them. So
That's
just
beautiful.
a tip that might help people.
Shkaya. That is beautiful.
And thank you so much for your inspiration. It really helped me, put me into a good frame of mind.
Baruch Hashem, I'm grateful.
Yes, thank you.
Would anyone else like to share something?
Hello?
Yes, yes. Yeah, it says user over here. Okay, I hear you. Go ahead.
I had some point, whatever, I have little kids, and I had it like very hard, and I really felt that at some point, the learning Hasidus from the whole time before that, really like kicked into me. Why am I here? What's this whole world? What's this whole being here? This is just what the Eibishter wants. So the Eibishter wants this now. This is exactly what I have to do. I have to just pamper and take care of the kids, and that gave me real big, a lot of inspiration to help me go on.
There was a very strong sense of like, this is just crazy. This just is unbelievable. This is surreal. This is not happening. This is just, and what you're saying is it's not crazy. It's exactly as the Eibishter intended, right? And we're all put in this specific situation at this specific time. And that helps you. It helps you center yourself, and it helps you also really have kayach to know that this is not a mistake. Chas v'shalom. This was predestined, and whatever and in Mirz Hashem, all the kayachs that we have that we're going to reveal through this period is a bracha for us, and will continue to give us kayachs when this goes away very soon. Anyone else would like to share?
If you don't mind, I want to share the perspective of people who perhaps are not busy with little kinderlach in the house. I don't know who's here in the crowd. I don't know who's on the phone, but I want to first bench for all the people who don't have that yet. They should be benched, that they should have a house full of healthy kids.
Amen.
Okay?
Amen.
Gesundheit and Freiwilligkeit. So as a college teacher, I just want to focus on shalom bayis. Because now many of our husbands are off work or working from the house, or off work and home all day with ourselves. There's a team effort that we have to present when we take care of our children or when we take care of our houses. So I know many husbands and wives have more shiurim together. They take a walk together alone. They're more focused together. It gives them time to kind of sit back and reshape their values and their focus about Baruch Hashem running together, husband and wife, a Yiddish Haim, a Chassidish Haim, a Varm Haim. So it's kind of like a sabbatical, so to speak, like once in 7 years, there's Shemitah. So the Eibishter is giving us this time to sit and reevaluate our perspective between each other, and together as a team, make sure that we have the v'shachanti b'soicham, that the Eibishter is resting in our house, because the house is a house of shalom and house of bracha, and of course a house of Torah, and of course with the attitude of Mashiach as well.
I can share something. I don't know do you hear me?
Yes, we do.
So just one thing that I started doing with my kids is because I'm a teacher, I do Parsha with my students. So I realized I could do that with my own kids too. Like it says they're learning the Parsha properly in school over the phone or whatever. So I sit down with a little medrash says, and when they're eating supper, we read that, or we read, the story of Reb Shimon Bar Yochai and Reb Akiva. And it's a sense of, like family time. So I just thought of sharing that.
Shekaya, thank you. That made me think of something that I'd like to share. Baruch Hashem, we in our own family, we've experienced miracles. My father-in-law, Rafal Avram Abba ben Rivka Risha, it still needs a very big refuah shalema, but there has been tremendous Yeshuas Hashem, and there should continue to be Yeshuas Hashem for him. But we instituted with our family what we call Tilim Hour. It's very interesting because it's not something that we made up. My mother was telling me, I don't know where, it started somewhere, I'm not sure who this woman was, but she started this concept of Erev Shabbos. Instead of coming into Shabbos like frantic Mishigoyim, they would back up. You know, no matter when Shabbos starts, we always have that frantic. So if Shabbos comes in at 4 o'clock, we're frantic. If Shabbos comes in at 8 o'clock, we're frantic, which actually doesn't really make sense because we should be ready by 4 o'clock on a summer Shabbos. But somehow that doesn't happen. So if we would just pretend that Shabbos comes in 45 minutes early and be ready for Shabbos 45 minutes earlier, and then they have Tillim hour where I think this woman did it with her family. They would split up Tillim with her whole family. And it takes, depending how large your family is, but in a typical family, like we have 7 children, it takes about 20 minutes to say the whole entire Sefer Tillim. So my mother mentioned this to me like 3-4 months ago. And I said, never, I could never do that in my house. I don't have time. I'm working. It's not shaykh. And then this came, and then my father-in-law was hospitalized, and we said, that's it, we're going to do Tillim hour. And we haven't been good this week. I don't know why, but we've tried to be pretty consistent about this, where we sit down, and because it's for refuah shalem, it doesn't have to be during the day. We sometimes can't get to it till the night, and we split up the entire Tillim with the whole family, starting from the 6-year-old who says 1 kapitel to my husband, right? And we divide up the entire Tillim, and it doesn't take very long, but we do it together because the point is that it should be done together, not like everyone has their piece of Tillim and somehow through the day it gets done. We all sit in the living room and we say the whole Tillim together. And one of my daughters said to me, I think I'm going to do Tillim hour every day with my kids. I said, just because she said it's such a beautiful thing. There's always someone who needs Tillim, right? And it's actually really, it's a sense of, first of all, that you're doing something. So like when you were saying like not just walking around with a heavy heart, but actually being able to feel like you're actually doing something. You're saying Tillim, you're reaching out for other Yidden, even if it's not, there's no one in your immediate family, and I hope there's no one in your immediate family that needs a Tillim. And then there's a sense of togetherness from the whole family, that we all sit and do something together. And it's actually really, it's very nice for us. We all really enjoy it. We don't usually get to it before Shabbos. We usually get to it now between Mincha and Erev of Shabbos. So after Lichbench, we sit down and we do it together, now that my husband is not going to shul on Friday night. Is there anyone else? We're heading at 11 o'clock at night. Would anyone else want to share something?
I'll share one more thing that you were saying about being ready before Shabbos. So what happened was, though, since my husband wasn't going to shul, so we were all davening Kabbalah Shabbos together. So I said, but 1 minute, I'm so used to sitting on the couch after I bench lech. I need that time to sit down. I can't just right away start davening. We have to sit down. So we started being ready to sit on the couch a half an hour before the Zman. So instead of rushing to bench lech, we're all sitting and waiting to bench lech. So it was just something else nice that came out of it. And maybe we should incorporate Tillim hour into the early half an hour.
You have to hear where the kids are all scattered all over the house. So my 2-year-old starts screaming, Tillim hour! He starts around me because he loves the feeling of the whole, he doesn't say Tillim obviously, but he loves the feeling of everyone sitting in the living room together and just family. He sits in the room with a siddur, shuffling back and forth with all of us. And it's like a real family experience. So I just want to end off, unless anyone else wants to share. I just want to end off with a bracha for all of us. First of all, let's have a refuah shalema for everyone who needs a refuah shalema, and everyone should have Yeshua, and no one should, and maybe should protect all the Yidden, all of Klal Yisrael. And I want to give a bracha that we should be able to experience Shovuos with simcha, with Torah, with pneumius, and that we should really see in a very tangible way how we've grown and stretched ourselves and benefited from this, and that we should then give koyach to each other, and this should be over very soon, and Mashiach should come, which would be the best solution for everybody. Good Shabbos, everybody.
Amen. Thank you so much, Baila.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Will.
Thank you, Mrs. Morosow. We really appreciated your input.
It's so nice to see that people like are still staying, they're hanging on, like people are looking for inspiration.
Okay, so are you ready to share with us?
What do you want me to share? You ask me a question, I'll see if I can answer. Or we could all try to answer together. You see, people are chalishing. There's like, like 35 people here. So I think everybody needs to step in. I already said a few pieces. There's plenty of people here that were quiet. So we could give each other a bracha. I'm just wondering, maybe each of us, the first part of the shir was focusing on our family. Maybe we should focus, everyone could give idea about being mechazik themselves, nothing to do with their husbands and nothing to do with their families, but their own personal relationship with Eibishter. Or is that getting too personal? I wish we could sing a niggin, but I know like in my house, there could be men coming and going, like we don't all have a place of privacy. Right. So that wouldn't really be appropriate for the moment.
Right.
I think now we can't get ourselves like in touch with the Irish. We're busy the whole time physically I know we're doing everything for the Irish, but we're busy doing the physical things the whole time. I don't know, I don't even get to almost say Yiddish word.
So first of all, why isn't the physical act something for the Eibishter? The Eibishter is in the physical. It says Hashemayim. The Goyim say Hashemayim, Shemayim LaHashem. That the Eibishter is in Shemayim, and the Haaretz Nasam Livnei Adam, and the Eibishter gave the earth down here for human beings, and there's no connection. But Chassidus teaches us what does it mean Adir B'Tachtainim? That when you are, it's beautiful how the Rebbe says is Vart. When you're looking at the window, and if you want to open up the window or close the window so there shouldn't be a wind blowing on the baby in the vegula, this is you're taking care of a neshama that the Eibishter entrusted in your hands, and you're making it more comfortable and more bakvem for a Yiddish neshama and Olam Hazeh. What could be more beautiful than that? This is a Hegelke moment. So to that lady who said you're busy with the Gashmius, you're taking care of the Eibishter's Gashmius. You're taking care that the Eibishter's neshamas. What could be more Hegelke than that?
I know, but we're not, we're in a physical.
Your job is you simply can't help them. Like, hello, somebody's suffering. You can't just. On the other hand, you have to.
So when somebody is suffering, yeah, we spoke about it
Mushky's mother. She's Mushky's mother. She's very.
I apologize. I didn't get dressed for the occasion because I wasn't planning to be here. I noticed I don't have my lipstick. I look so pale. I'm in a location that's a little uncomfortable. But that's how it works. When I teach, I prepare for the occasion. But I want to share before. I think we spoke about it before that there's like I just to repeat for the people that came late. But this is a very real thing. How if somebody else wants to repeat it, I wonder how it was received. Like as a teacher, sometimes I teach, but when you say, it's interesting what people heard. They could have heard something completely different. I just today had a halacha review with one of the colleagues I recently taught, and there's one thing she answered a question, and I'm like, oi, like, is that what she got? Like when I gave her that, it wasn't a halachic issue, it was more a hashkafic issue, and I said, oh, I have to be more careful with my wording if that's how it could be received. So I don't want to talk twice, but if somebody wants to maybe give the feedback of what you heard to answer that question, maybe it could be a springboard for further discussion.
I didn't finish asking before. I was trying to ask Lamasa, I used to daven every day before this. I used to hear a sheet. Now I'm actually busy Baruch Hashem, with the kids the entire time. I just don't get to take care of my own self for the Eibishter.
So first of all, look what you're doing right now. You did find the time, so give yourself a point for that. And the second thing I would say, there's quality and there's quantity, right? There's echos and there's kamos. So what you did before, and this also a woman, why isn't a woman mechuyev in mitzvahs that have to take place at a specific time? Because if she's first and foremost mechuyev to her family and making sure her, as a keres abayis, she's taking care, she can't be obligated in two things at once. Or for example, there's a machlokes, how much does a woman have to daven? Either she needs to daven, according to the Alter Rebbe, she has to daven shachris and mincha, or the opposite. All she has to do is abakasha, Eibishter, please help me get through this day, because it depends, of course, on her circumstance. So always when a woman goes through different stages in life, it's not like a man that there's every single day, shachris, mincha, ma'ariv, tefillin, minyan, whatever the case is. A woman, because her first and foremost obligation is to make sure her household is running the way the Eibishter wants it to run. So the amount of time that she takes to spend on her davening or whatever else is will be very different depending on the mitzias that's going on in her household at that time. But we could exchange, like we said, quantity for quality. When we wake up in the morning and we say Moida Ani, it takes 5 seconds. Moida Ani v'fanecha melechai v'kayam shechazarta bi nishmasi v'chamura rabba manasecha. 12 seconds. So instead of saying Moida Ani, let it take 12 and a half seconds. And remember, you say Moida Ani. That's the beginning of my day. Eibishter, I have total bittul. Moida is from the sphere of height. This is the week in Sefirah Eimer that we're working on. Bittul on Haid. Haid means bittul, means not what I want, but what does the Eibishter want from me? And like it's connected to the mitzvah of Tvilah. Tvilah has the ices of bittul. When we tovel in water, why is water connected to bittul? Because water doesn't have a shape. Water doesn't have a color. Water turns into the shape and the color of whatever the keli it's put into. So when we focus on bittul, it's not about the Eibishter, it's what does the Eibishter want from me right now? So when we wake up in the morning, and of course, I would love to daven, and I would love to say Tehillim, and I would love to run Tashir, and I would love to this, and I would love to do that. But it's not about me. What does the Eibishter want from me? And we wake up with a totally different chayas. Because in the Eibishter's perspective, from my perspective, it's not about my self-fulfillment. What makes me feel happy? What makes me fulfilled? What makes me? It's not about me. If we shift our focus, I want to make the Eibishter happy today. What does the Eibishter want from me today? That alone gives us a tremendous simcha that we are doing on a moment by moment. Our choices are based on Ratzin Hashem. It almost kind of relieves us from responsibility, and we put our responsibility to the Eibishter. So if right now the Eibishter put me in a situation where I have to spend more time with feeding everybody, being misader the house, if you had a cleaning help, she's not available these days. Maybe there's sick people that we're concerned about, or we have parents that we have to take care of. There's so many extra things going on. So just if we spend the extra few seconds on the Moida Ani, we spend a few extra seconds on the Moida Ani in the morning, and our thought is the Haida'ah, which is one we said was bittul. Haida'ah also means thank you. Moida Ani, thank you Hashem for giving me another day of my life. Thank you Hashem for giving me the opportunity for taking care of my husband, taking care of my children, taking care of my house. Thank you Hashem that today is whatever today is. It doesn't take much time, but at least we start from the right perspective. Again, it's not about me. It's about what the Eibishter wants from me.
Thank you so much. It really helped me.
You're saying it's the focus more than the time.
Yes, it's the focus. It's like I said, there's eichos, which is quality, and kamos, which is quantity. And we know as women, what's more important. My children hanging around me for half an hour, but I don't give them that eye contact, like one of the women mentioned here, or giving them 60 full seconds of total attention. So the same thing with the Eibishter. Are we like spending 15 minutes on extra tilim, or now we're taking a few 12 seconds in the morning, just with a deep focus of connection. And if we need it more times a day, we could do it more times a day. It doesn't have to be only by Moida Ani. Moida Ani is easy because it's the beginning of the day and we could get out of bed 12 seconds later the house will still be standing usually, you know? But when we're in the middle of, you know.
Can I ask another question? It's the same question as Baila before. It's like in the same note. How does Hashem want us actually to respond to tzudis? I'll tell you what I mean. I know officially if you have tzudis, you're supposed to grow, right? That's really why Hashem's giving you hardship. You should grow from it, yeah. From my perspective, it looks like tzudis is, you know, it doesn't bring you to grow, which is the opposite. If it, good, you know, goodness makes you appreciate, makes you grow. But if you have, I would say I'm trying to think how tzudis could like actually you have to grow out of it. I mean,
So I don't know if you have yet somebody who teaches you Tanya.
I do.
So maybe if you learn in a Geras HaKodesh last the chapter, I think it's Yud Aleph, not sure. It talks all about when we perceive or when we experience negativity in our life. How do we shift our perspective? And if that is the foundation, that again, it's not about me and my feelings, but let's look at it from the Eibishter's eyes. Let's reframe this event. So by learning Chassidus over and over again until it actually affects our emotions, if we get caught up in the negativity, our selfishness, or our Hashem created us with a nefesh bahamis and a nefesh elokis, right? Our animal soul and our godly soul. Our nefesh bahamis has a natural instinct for being involved in ourselves. Like a behemoth has instincts for self-preservation. It'll do whatever it can instinctively, right, to save itself. So our animals or our emotions by nature, our natural emotions are, it's about me. How do I feel about it? But that is avoid of Sefirah to shift. I just want to quote from an interesting mimer from one of the Rabbeim, how really the source of our nefesh bahamis is from what it says, the chayes of the Merkava, the animals that are Hashem's chariot, like the vision in Yecheskel, there's a chariot, and there are 4 animals. There's the Ari and the shor, the lion and the ox. And what does that mean? That it's true that animals have intense emotions, but the source of the concept called animal is from Hashem's chariot. What is a chariot? A chariot means there's a rider, and the chariot is the wagon is only pulled in the direction that the rider pulls it. So this is symbolic of total bittul, that all my emotions, instead of being used for selfishness or self-preservation or making me feel good, for example, even the midah of chesed, I want to do a kindness, right? So if it comes from a negative way, it's like, it's about me. Like, I want to send my friend Shabbos. Maybe she doesn't want a Shabbos meal. Maybe she doesn't appreciate your cooking. Maybe she would appreciate better if you send her money or send her a babysitter for her children or something else. So our natural state is usually selfishness, or what does it mean for me? And the avodah of Sefirah is, again, this humility, because these midos are harnessed. Where is the Eibishter taking me? What does the Eibishter want from me right now? So if I feel the pain and the suffering of a yid, but it makes me feel stuck and I don't appreciate the Eibishter, or it stops me from doing what I need to do for the Eibishter, it means it's something negative. But again, shifting the focus, I feel pain. I could say extra capital tilim. I could give a tzedakah for shalema, or whatever the case is. But then we have to shift our focus, despite the pain or from the pain. I have a job now. I have to harness my feelings. Instead of feeling myself, I have to feel, what does the Eibishter want me to feel right now? And sometimes it's clear and sometimes it's confusing. But how do we really know if something is coming from a nefesh bahamis, from a kind of negative behemoth state, or this emotion or this midah is expressing something for the Eibishter? And the answer is, what is the result? You go by the result, because sometimes, like we said, when it comes to chesed, or even if it's gvura, you want to show to be strict. So sometimes strictness is good. Like when Sarah sent away Yishmael, the Eibishter said it was a good thing. So sometimes strictness is a positive thing, sometimes it's a negative thing, right? So we always have to go by the result. Is the result an increase in Torah and Avodah or Gimas Chasadim, or is the result a decrease? And then we know where it's coming from. Sometimes we're not sure. Call a mashpia, call a friend, reach out to someone. Sometimes somebody else who's not caught up, is more objective and not caught up within their own feelings, will able to help you think out of yourself and help you organize your feelings to say where it's really coming from. For example, sometimes people think they have to be in control of everything. They feel secure when they're in charge, or they have everything set up. Comes Corona and makes a whole topsy-turvy. When, my son's bar mitzvah is coming up. I have no idea how to plan it, where to plan it. It's not even a wedding, so there's a bit of uneasiness there because some of us feel more settled when we're in control of things. So maybe, what is the Eibusher teaching us? You have to work on letting go of control and letting the Eibusher control your life. So another concept I want to add here is whenever we're faced with our weakness or faced with a negative emotion, it's because we have to work on it and we have to have better tools how not to be stuck in that negative state, but how to come out of it and use it as a catalyst for change. So for example, sometimes a friend can help us understand, why are you feeling so depressed? What are you afraid of? Can you make sick people healthy? You're not in control of that. The Eibusher is. Okay, I say kapital tilim or whatever. What is it? What is it that making you feel despair? What is it that makes you feel negative? What's really going on? Sometimes by asking a few more questions, like what's the worst thing that you feel is going to happen to you? Then you get to the crux of what is the underlying source. And as soon as you switch it from underneath, everything else falls into place.
I hear you. It's very nice. Yes, it makes sense. It's just I'm curious if it's something that, if let's say somebody doesn't feel alone, then it's okay. Then that's not a Avodah. There is a certain Avodah, even if you don't say Kapatil, just another Yid has it too. There's something about just feeling alone. It's not only about doing. It's something about a state that you're in. It shows Yid Rachmunim.
So we spoke about that. That we Yidden do two opposite things at once.
Right.
So you're feeling Rachmunim, you have to feel you feel another Yid's pain, and it doesn't matter where the Yid is, you feel the pain. But at the same time, you can feel this
constructive
and also create a feeling of simcha around you. I was always very inspired when I would read the Holocaust stories and how Yidden were dancing in the worst of times. But that's the beauty of a Yid, that we could do two opposite things at the same time, because the source of a Yid, our neshama, is a piece of the Eibusher, and the Eibusher is two opposites at the same time.
Beautiful.
Another thought is to accept our imperfections. Till Mashiach comes, none of us are going to be perfect. And sometimes it's the most comforting thing is to let go. So it won't be perfect. It won't be like my vision is. A lot of people are home and it intensifies trouble that they had with previous relationships that they ignored until now. All of a sudden, the difficult child, the difficult part of the relationship with the husband, the difficult financial situation, whatever it was. So now it's a time that things could be magnified also in a negative way because of this stuck feeling, right? So sometimes understanding that the Eibusher made our world imperfect, and that brings us a longing to the time when Mashiach will come. Only the Eibusher could create perfection. And it's a reminder for us, who do you think we are? Do you really think I can make things perfect? I can't make things perfect. We have limitations. So sometimes it is a simcha when we accept our imperfections. When we accept our imperfections, it makes it easier for us to accept the imperfections of the people around us and the world around us. Not everything has an answer. Not everything has a solution. things could be wild, things could be out of control. And guess what? It's okay, because the Eibishter is creating this moment in time. The Eibishter is creating this situation right now. The Eibishter is very, very well aware what's going on this moment, in this place, at this time. And the Eibishter wants, at this moment, at this place, and this time, this should happen. Of course, we can't just let go and like give up. But the Eibishter knows our limitations as well. And the Eibishter knows each of us is trying to do the best we can with the tools we have at the moment. Some people Hashem benched with better tools and are better equipped. Some people have lesser tools and less equipped. But all we need to do is the best we can, moment by moment. And sometimes it's a great tool to kind of let go that things, sometimes like when I was listening to what different mothers do for their families, I'm like, I don't do that, I don't do that, I don't do that. And, sometimes it's not a good idea to hear all these great ideas, because instead of saying, wow, that's amazing. I remember I had to switch, I'm a teacher, so I had to switch the way I teach. In our community where I come from, the school is mostly not by phone. Some teachers are teaching by phone, but we have to teach by Zoom, okay? Now, look at you, those of you that are, the few that are watching, we're sitting and looking at a screen already for X amounts of time. But because we're mature people, we want to be here. We could have hung up whenever it was officially over. We could have left, but we chose to stay. When you're a teacher in school, in high school, so all of a sudden we have to have ideas how to make the classes more interactive, more interesting, And at the first time when I heard all these new ideas, I almost said, forget it. Like, I do this and that. It was like so overwhelming, and it left me feeling more like a failure than motivating me to do step by step in the right direction. Especially because my children are students, and a lot of my children picked up on this very, very quickly. I had to press buttons and make things interesting. Like you'll see, I'm not a host here, but I could ask a question and you can, hey, whatever. There's so many interesting things to do, kosher v'yosher, through this way. So again, is the result a negative feeling? Whoops, okay. 1 second, hold on. Okay, my time is up in this location, but so I just want to end up by saying, is the result going to be leaving me in a negative state? It's coming from a bad place. But if you take a deep breath and say, fine, let me take one step at a time. Let me do one little thing to add some positive energy, then you're going in the right direction. Okay?
Thank you so much. It was so clear.
From all the wonderful ideas, again, that's your test. What direction am I going? Is it leading to negative energy or despair? Then that's coming from a negative place. So always go by the results. Okay, girls, ladies, Kabbalah Satire, Besimcha Panemius, we should all see, just like from the hardships of the time, we should witness the opposite extreme, the true Simcha, when we'll have the Geula very quickly.
Thank you so much.